There are many planets out there in the vast multiverse, home to countless sentient species, all with their own unique walks of life. Some of these species simply live in peace, making the most of what they have on their own worlds, while others traverse the multiverse with domination in mind, seeking out and conquering the weaker civilizations they encounter. One of these species, just like many others, lived in peace, but came under threat from the dominating Combine Empire. What events led to this species discovering planet Earth? Do they honestly have humanity's best interest in mind? And what are they truly capable of? Here we explore in the lore and story behind the Vortigaunt species. Way back before the enslavement and war of their species, the Vortigaunt lived in peace on their own planet. Not a lot is known about their culture, customs, or life back then, but what is known is that this paradise was interrupted after the Combine discovered their world. Just like they had done to many species before, the Combine scoured the Vortigaunt's planet for resources with the intent to mutilate and assimilate the unfortunate population into their great army. During this brutal invasion, many of the species fell to this great invading force, but as a powerful and knowledgeable species themselves, the strongest of the Vortigaunt managed to discover a connection from their world to the border world of Zen. These border worlds could connect multiple dimensions and worlds together, and as the Vortigaunt entered this hidden place between dimensions, they were able to escape the grasp of the dominating empire to safety. Although it appeared that the surviving Vortigaunt had arrived at a place where they could rebuild and repopulate, their time in Zen would go down in Vortigaunt history as another chapter in their turbulent existence. Standing tall on two legs, the surviving members of the war observed this stunning border world around them with their four eyes. Their heads dominated by one large eye with three smaller eyes above it. With Zen being home to the many flora and fauna that had made their way here from the worlds it had connected to over the years, the Vortigaunt explored the land, discovering everything that this place had to offer. On their journeys, the Vortigaunt sometimes came across the vicious and territorial animals that also roamed the floating islands. So, the Vortigaunt had to defend themselves in any way they could. With three arms, it was observed that they used two of these to swipe with their long, sharp claws at those that meant danger. With their third, located on their chest, it was noted that they appeared to use this one to feed from the bodies of their prey. As an intelligent species, the Vortigaunt worked together to take down the bigger creatures they encountered, and if they were unable to take down a foe, they were smart enough to know when to cut their losses and try again when they were strong enough to do so. In terms of Vortigaunt cuisine, it was found that the influx of headcrabs wandering the islands of Zen became a favourite for the species, where they would hunt, cook, and eat them together. As a bright species, the Vortigaunt even had their own language, Vortigese. Even now, many years later, humanity still struggles to understand their native tongue. This language comprised of many words noted by humans to consistently begin with the letter G, such as Galanga, Gong, and Lung Ga. In combination with their Vortigese, the species also later spoke of their ability to flux shift, something only those without impaired vortal inputs could understand. Vortal inputs being a natural part of the Vortigaunt biological structure, essentially something humanity could never experience completely. Their species had, and still does, consist of poets, philosophers, cooks, healers, and various other sectors that you would find in a standard society. An intelligent social species of powerful beings that had been chased from their home planet, and now Zen had become their new home, where they learned and adapted to its ever-changing ecosystem. Alongside their communication through their native tongue of Vortigese, The Vortigaunt also used another unique method to interact with one another through a natural force known as the Vortessence. Believed by the Vortigaunt to be the fabric of the universe, this force was explained to humanity as a connection of vortal cords linked to everyone and everything in the universe. Only the Vortigaunt could tap in to this powerful, invisible form of energy and use it for their benefit. With this force believed to be connected to everything, unseen by anyone but the Vortigaunt, they would use it to telepathically communicate with other members of their species from miles away, a sort of hive mind where they could warn their kin of threats on the way, as well as important information they had discovered on their travels. With this belief in such a great force, the Vortigaunt also believed the death of a physical form not to be the end, but rather an interval of darkness, suggesting death to be temporary for the Vortigaunt, although this is only speculated from the conversations humanity would later have with the species. Connecting to the Vortessence, the Vortigaunt learned to take energy from and use it for their needs. When in combat, the creatures learned to take and convert the Vortessence into a physical form, where it would appear as a powerful green strike of lightning. Upon being hit by a burst of this energy, the Vortigaunt's prey would fall down, incredibly injured. This energy would even take some of their life force from them, adding it to the Vortigaunt that had launched the projectile. In a more productive setting, the Vortigaunt put this energy to a positive use. Standard practices being charging up equipment, telepathically manipulating objects around them, and whatever else the powerful species required of this invisible force of pure energy. Upon further exploration of Zen, the Vortigaunt came upon the Antlion, who, just like the Vortigaunt, had discovered Zen after the border world had crossed paths with their own world. With their inquisitive nature, the Vortigaunt acquired a larval extract from an antlion nest and discovered that it had extraordinary properties. Not only did it have incredible healing qualities, but it also allowed the Vortigaunt to increase and expand their connection to the Vortessence, even to the point where they could manipulate time itself. Although the Vortigaunt had seemingly bounced back after their escape from the Combine Empire, the peace they had found here would only last for so long before a new force would come to Zen and disrupt their progress. On another world out there in the multiverse, the Combine had discovered another sentient species to conquer. During this brutal slaughter of the Nihilanth species, a soul member managed to discover a gateway from its world to Zen, and with it, he traveled through to safety, leaving the rest of his species behind, becoming the sole survivor. Upon arriving here, the creature, just like many others who had come across Zen, explored the floating islands hidden within a cosmic void. As a powerful creature, he looked upon the other species here and understood he held more power than any of them. So, he took it upon himself to conquer these unfortunate creatures. In this battle for power, the Vortigaunt's impressive combat abilities could not take on the Nihilanth and its newly formed army, and with this, the Vortigaunt bowed down to a new leader. Having been imprisoned by the creature, the Nihilanth fitted the Vortigaunt with green collars and wristbands. It appeared that the shackles somehow had the ability to control their actions, so that any attempt of resistance would be futile. For eons, the Nihilanth used the Vortigaunt as drones in his workforce to build and operate factories to create a clone army. When not in close proximity to their master, alien controllers would wander Zen, keeping an eye on the Vortigaunt in the event they did something to rebel. Over this time, controlled by the collars and beaten down, the Vortigaunt would know only of captivity and servitude. Although the Nihilanth had escaped the brutal control and extermination of his species, he had essentially given the Vortigaunt a similar fate to what he had avoided. Xen had been used as a safe haven in both cases, and so, surely, the Combine would be looking for this place that had allowed their prey to escape twice. With this in mind, the Nihilanth searched for a place that would allow him to be free from the Combine forever, and then the resonance cascade occurred. On planet Earth, a science experiment had gone extremely wrong, ripping a hole in space, creating a rift between Earth and Xen. Believing this to be the perfect place to avoid the threat of the Combine, the Nihilanth decided to send through his Xenian army to conquer Earth for him. Under the orders of the Nihilanth, the Vortigaunt was sent through the rift to Earth to fight humanity. Landing within the Black Mesa research facility, the Vortigaunt met humanity. Unable to ask them for help due to the control of the Nihilanth, they used their connection to the Vortessence to strike down the innocent, scared population trapped within. Working together, they moved through the facility, attempting to kill anything that moved. The terrified scientists defenseless to their fatal blows, but the security guards managed to put up more of a fight. And then there was one more of the species that would leave a lasting impression: Dr. Gordon Freeman, the man that came at them with a crowbar in the claustrophobic steel corridors. Over the following hours, the Vortigaunt worked with the alien grunts, simply following the orders of their master. But then, something was different. The Nihilanth was dead. The scientist with the crowbar had entered Xen and taken him out. Not only had this resulted in the connection between Earth and Xen being broken, but it also meant that the Vortigaunt's eons of slavery was over. The Nihilanth's power over them was gone. Gordon Freeman had saved them, and from here they would regard him as the free man. Although this war between Earth and Xen had ended with the freedom of the Vortigaunt species, their celebrations would unfortunately be short-lived. This whole event, the ripping of a hole in space, had alerted the Combine of Earth's presence and location. To this, they did what they had done to countless other species before, and attacked. With portal storms ravaging the planet, and Xen's creatures still falling through into Earth as a side effect of the resonance cascade, Earth's armies fell weak. By the time the Combine sent through their armies, Earth was struggling to keep up with the onslaught of these invaders. As the Combine attacked, Earth fought with everything they had. Humanity simply could not escape to Xen as the Nihilanth and the Vortigaunt had done. They merely had to do their best to fight off the immense Combine Empire with everything they had. Unfortunately, on the 7th hour, Earth bowed down to their new masters, and a new age of slavery began. Although the Vortigaunt had fought with humanity during the resonance cascade, they now shared a common enemy. On top of this, it seemed that the few survivors of the Black Mesa incident understood that the Vortigaunt were acting against their will during the event, forced to follow the orders of the Nihilanth. And with this, when a resistance against the Combine did form, the Vortigaunt were asked to fight alongside them as allies. In a test to their intelligence, the Vortigaunt adapted extremely quickly to Earth and its population, where they managed to pick up many human languages fairly easily, allowing them to communicate with ease with their human allies. But on the flip side of this, humanity struggled to understand Vortigese. With this, it is said that when the Vortigaunt did have something negative to say about humanity, they would return to their native tongue. While the Vortigaunt appeared to have humanity's best interest in mind, there were still members of the human population who did not trust these aliens. Aware of the power and connection of the Vortessence that the Vortigaunt truly possessed, the Combine attempted to round up all of the Vortigaunt they could find, now trapped here following the Black Mesa War. These creatures could help them understand a power they could not access or control, and through standard Combine mutilation, maybe they could turn these Vortigaunt into conduits to control the Vortessence themselves. Jumping ahead around 15 years after the 7-Hour War, in another timeline or adjustment to the timeline, a now strong operational resistance became aware of a unique Combine structure, the Vault, a complex Combine prison. Over these 15 years, the Combine had brutally experimented with their captured Vortigaunt and developed a method to siphon their Vortessence energy, setting up substations across the quarantine zone of City 17. The Combine trapped one Vortigaunt inside each of these stations where they were forced to sing, their song activating a flow of their green energy. Inside of these prisons, their energy would then be absorbed and sent through giant wires into the vault, where the Combine stored it for future use. Inside, the Combine had managed to capture and hold a mysterious entity using their Vortigaunt batteries, known to some as the G-Man. To the trapped Vortigaunt across the city's luck, a young Resistance member, Alyx Vance, agreed to help rescue these captured Vortigaunt after meeting Gary. Gary had recently escaped capture from the Combine, but during his captivity, he had been experimented on, branded, and left impaired. The Combine had drilled into his head, severing his connection to the Vortessence, and without this, he had lost his connection to his kin. Similar to a hive mind when connected to their fabric of reality, Gary had been left in isolation without them. When speaking to Alyx, he seemed to struggle to differentiate past, present, and future events, believing a major event in the future to have already happened. This suggesting that the Vortigaunt could not only manipulate the flow of time with their enhanced abilities, but also see into the future. On the other side of this, it did take a brain-damaged Vortigaunt to relay this impressive piece of knowledge, suggesting that even the Vortigaunt kept secrets from their human allies. Over the next 5 years, now 20 years after the Combine invasion, the Vortigaunt and human worked together to form a strong resistance network across the wasteland. Using their knowledge of the Xenian creatures they had lived alongside before their enslavement, the Vortigaunt passed on their knowledge of these creatures that had come to Earth. In the case of the antlion, the Vortigaunt helped humanity avoid a gruesome death to the antlion by crafting theropods, taken from the body of an antlion guard, and with a little burst of Vortigaunt energy, these pods could control the antlion population in the vicinity. Upon being captured by the Combine, the Vortigaunt would take advantage of this opportunity by taking in their surroundings, floor plans of prisons, Combine information, patrols, and anything the Resistance could use to their advantage, and then relay all of this information to the free members of their species using their Vortessence-based telepathy to be of use to the Resistance. For the free members, they became ranking members of the Resistance, one being Uriah, who became an assistant to Dr. Arnie Magnusson in the secret White Forest Resistance base. For the Resistance leaders, their abilities and knowledge came in extremely useful, where the humans used their natural connection to the Vortessence to power up machinery, HEV suits, and whatever else needed power. On a standard day in City 17, the Freeman suddenly appeared. Their savior had returned from whatever place he had been trapped in. It is believed that some Vortigaunt, at this point, were aware of the G-Man and his abilities, likely due to their prophetic and psychic abilities. As Gordon traversed the wasteland, taking on Combine forces, any Vortigaunt that met him helped him in any way they could. Some charged up his HEV suit with their energy, another crafted him a theropod to control the antlions, and there were others that simply showered him in compliments and praised him. It seemed that he appeared to them in an almost messianic way. Gordon had once freed them from their dominating ruler, and he could surely do it again. It is even said that on Gordon's journey, he came across the hidden, all-knowing Vortigaunt, a member of the species that had evaded the Combine's capture, full of knowledge of past, present, and future events. It seemed that this Vortigaunt saw more than many others did, even the actions of many behind the scenes, quoting, "Far distant eyes look out through yours." During the Battle of City 17, the Vortigaunt became aware of an altercation at the top of the Citadel as the Dark Fusion Reactor exploded. Here, they would show just how much power they had and what they were capable of. At this moment, the G-Man appeared to Gordon, stopping time to save his investment. Using his abilities, he once again placed the Freeman in stasis, just like he had done after the Resonance Cascade. With Gordon safe, the G-Man leaves Alyx to her fate, but the Vortigaunt saw a future for her. If Gordon and Alyx were to die, they believed that their hope of freedom would fail, and without freedom, their lives would be worthless. Upon Gordon's disappearance, the Vortigaunt appeared to have enhanced their abilities with the help of an antlion larval extract, glowing purple as a side effect. Utilizing this, they teleported to the top of the Citadel, holding time still, where they rescued Alyx from certain death. Following this, and with Alyx safe, the powered-up Vortigaunt decided to enter Gordon's stasis prison. Upon finding him, the G-Man entered this void, discovering the rescue operation in full effect. With their enhanced powers, a group of Vortigaunt managed to hold off the G-Man with their power as two others reached Gordon, teleporting him back to Earth, out of the clutches of the G-Man. Upon waking up on Earth, Gordon and Alyx continued to fight against the Combine, now traveling across the wasteland towards the White Forest Resistance base. On their path, a Combine hunter brutally attacks Alyx, leaving her close to death. To their luck, the duo had been close to Victory Mine, a resistance settlement home to Vortigaunt and human members. Discovering this dire situation, a Vortigaunt successfully fought off oncoming antlion with his power and then wailed out, likely with a flux shift for his Vortigaunt kin to aid him in saving the Alyx Vance. Having taken Alyx to their base, the Vortigaunt explained to Gordon that they required antlion larval extract from a nest below their base to enhance their powers to heal her mortal wounds. Upon acquiring this extract, the Vortigaunt were able to successfully heal Alyx, allowing her and Gordon to venture forth towards the White Forest Resistance base. As the duo set off, the Vortigaunt returned to playing their role in this war, having discovered unhatched Combine advisors in the vicinity where they set off to go after them. With Alyx, Gordon would help push back the Combine, and hopefully, in the near future, allow the Vortigaunt to be truly free after a history of brutality, manipulation, and slavery. Evolving and growing in the vast universe as a normal species would, this once strong community fell not once but 3 times to another species that sought only to dominate and care for their own needs. Although the Vortigaunt had fought their hardest, using their connection to the immense power of the Vortessence over many years to escape their bonds of slavery, it seemed that they would always come up against a stronger force that would attempt to use them to acquire their power for their own agenda. While the Vortigaunt species had allied with the Resistance during their conflict against the Combine Empire, it must be said that even they have not shown their human allies what they are truly capable of. And with this, in that shadow of doubt, it does make you question, what are the Vortigaunt's true goals and intentions after the war is over? After the closing of the Combine Superportal and the race to discover the Borealis, maybe one day, the Vortigaunt will be truly free and their true agenda will be revealed. When I think of Half-Life, the first 3 things I think of are crowbar, beer, and the Vortigaunt species. They are probably my first memory of playing against, and with, an alien species in a video game. Their design is so unique, and I do truly love the way they speak and act. I think the most interesting thing I discovered while exploring this topic is that in the first Half-Life, Gordon was originally to have essentially incited a rebellion against the Nihilanth, where the Vortigaunt would help him on his journey. Obviously, this idea was not used and then rejigged and recycled in Half-Life 2. Secondly, the Vortigaunt, again in Half-Life, were originally intended to have the ability to resurrect their fallen allies, I guess through some sort of use of the Vortessence, which adds another layer to their little speech about death being temporary. The Vortigaunt do also feature in Mark Laidlaw's not-so-canon Epistle 3 and Breengrub Twitter account. In brief, during Breengrub, he tweets, "Even these Vortigaunts, what if they are of the other sort, allied with them, and merely feigning revolutionary thought?" I know Mark Laidlaw had left Valve at this point, but Half-Life basically was his story, so this could suggest a plotline that was going to be used, maybe? In Epistle 3, at the end of the story, Gordon is about to die as the Borealis flies towards a combined Dyson sphere, but the Vortigaunt save his life by teleporting on board the ship and taking him out of the situation before it crashes. It does add a lot of speculation. If the Vortigaunt could teleport onto a ship bouncing through time and space, what are they truly capable of? Again, these are not considered canon, but the Vortigaunt do play at least a small role in both of these. If you are interested in the Breengrub or Epistle 3 stories, I have linked my deep dives into them below. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like and a comment on your thoughts to boost that algorithm. It would help a lot. I would also like to thank my patrons and channel members who are on the screen right now. And an extra special thank you to my gold tier patrons and channel members, Jonas, Lewis, Queen Arby, Fluffy the Dragon, and Mr. M791. Thank you so much for the continued support. After posting this little community post about channel members, I appreciate everyone who has joined up. It will give me the ability to create better content with better equipment in the future. If anyone is interested, depending on the tier you pick, you'll get access to videos early and behind the scenes content. What did you think of this video? Do you think that the Vortigaunt have a hidden agenda, and would you be able to take one out in a fight? Let me know in the comments below. That was everything I wanted to cover in this episode. Now Resistance member, enjoy your day. Bye.